Hi all, welcome to Excel Pro. Today we are going to discuss about the topic drop-down list in Excel. How to create the drop-down list, what are the different methods creating the drop-down list, how to define the source for the drop-down list, and how to create the drop-down list efficiently. First, it starts with method 1. In this method, I am going to define the values for the drop-down list directly. For example, here I am having my students name list where I am having marks of each student. So in this result column, I am going to make this as a drop-down list column. So I need two values. Either it should be a pass or fail value. So for that, I am going to restrict this cell as a drop-down cell so that it will have only two values. So for making this cell as a drop-down cell, I have to select a cell, then move to data menu. In the data menu, I have to select data validation. Click on data validation. The data validation wizard will open. In that wizard, you have to select list. In the list, I am going to specify the values that I want to display in the drop down. That is pass and fail. Going to separate those values by comma. How to specify the comma in between values. That is pass, comma, fail. So in my case, I need only two values. So I'm just giving the values directly. Pass, comma, fail. Then I need to give OK in this wizard. This input message and the error alert, I'll cover it in last. First, as of now, just give OK. So now you can see the drop down list values will come over here. If I click on the icon over here, you can see the pass and the fail value. This is method 1. This is direct way of giving the values for the drop down list. So this is method 1. Now we move to method 2. Yeah, this is method 2. Method 2, for example, assume you have a list of values that needs to be given for the drop down list. In previous case, I have only two values to give. So I directly mention that values. In some cases, I might have many lists of values to be defined in the drop down list. So in that case, I need to specify the cell range. Cell range where I am having the values that needs to be present in the drop down list. So that is method 2. It will have predefined set of values, but the set of values will be available in the same sheet in Excel. So for selecting these values, go to the data menu, data validation, same data validation, you have to select list. In the list, it will ask where it may source. Just click on the icon and select the source. That is, I am selecting from L2 to L7. The dollar sign will appear because the L2 and L7 values is absolute. It will not change. The source value will be the same. Even if I drag the drop downs to the other cell, the cell value, the source value will not get changed. That's why dollar sign for before the cell address. Again, if I click on the icon here, it will again move to the wizard. So once I select the source cell, I need to give OK. So sorry, if you see, I have selected this cell. So my drop down list have come over here, A plus to A7. So before giving any values to the drop down list, first you need to select the cell where it needs to be dropped down. So again I am doing it. I am selecting the cell, go to data validation tab. Again I am selecting the list. From the list I am selecting the source. Give OK. Now you can see I have got the drop down list from over here. See, if this cell I don't want the drop down list. If I want to delete the drop down list, how to do that? Again the same thing. You should not directly delete icon. It won't work in this case. You have to go to data validation tab. Again data validation. You have to give clear all. Clear all in this. You have to click clear all. Then give OK. Now the drop down list is removed from this cell. This is the best way of deleting the drop down list. So I got the cell validation over here, drop down list. If I want the same values to be in the other cells, I just drag the cell down. So here I can select and change the values. But the drop down list is applied to all the cells over here. This is method 2. Now we go into method 3. Here method 3, here also I am having a predefined set of values, but it is in the other sheet. For example, I have a source list, but the source list is not in the same page of the Excel. So in that case, how to do that? How to define my source in the data validation? So you have to give the name for the source. Define the name. How to define the name? I'll show you the example. Here I am having one more sheet called source. So here I am having the grade list. You see, I am having the grade list over here. First I need to give the name for this list. So first select the data. Then you can directly give a name from this name box. I can directly type a name. Any name. Grade list. I just type the grade list as my name. Or else give the name and click on enter. If you don't want that one, go select the cell, go to formulas tab, then define name. You can see the option called define name. Click on that. The source cell got selected. So you need to just give a name over here. You can follow any of this method to give a name for the list. So give OK. So now you can see automatically grade list, when I select the source list, the name got changed to name list. This is the defined name for this source. So how to give in this value here? So again select the grade cell, go to data validation tab, data validation, and select the list value. In here I need to give equal to sign, then I have to give my source list name, defined name. In my case, the defined name is grade list. Either you can type it, or the other way is just press F3. F3 will give the list of names already given to many predefined names. All the predefined names will be available here. So in my case it is grade list. So I select the grade list, click on OK. Then again equal to grade list, it automatically came. Then give OK. Now you can see I got the grade list from this source that is available in other sheet. This is method 3. And now we are going to method 4. So in previous methods, you can see you have a drawback over there. If I change the source, that is, if I want to add one new value to my source list, so say I am adding just, for example, I am adding here. But when I again go to this cell and select the drop down, the I will not appear over here. That is because these sources are fixed. It won't get changed. To make it as a dynamic, we have to define the source as a table. That is, for example, I am having one more sheet over here. Here I am having the source, the same list. Instead of defining the name here, I have to make it this as a table. For making this as a table, use the shortcut key Ctrl T, or else go to Insert tab, click on Tables. My table have a header, that is grade list title table. So just select this checkbox and click OK. Now you can see this is my table. My table name is table 1. You can see the table field. My table name is table 1. I am just naming this as grade table like that for our convenience. I am just renaming it grade table so that you can understand it better. So I am just naming my table as grade table. So now I created this as a table. Now I have to refer this table in my source. In my source, how to do that? So click the cell where I want to define the source for the table. Go to data tab, data validation, and click on list. Now I have to give equal to, I am going to use one function to refer the table, that is indirect function. INDIRECT, indirect function. What this indirect function will do, it will refer the table and get the reference of the table and get the values from there and list it over here. That is the use of using indirect function. So just as of now, just understood the pattern how to use it in this list. Indirect, open parenthesis, double quotes. Inside this you need to give the table name, that is my grade table. I just named the table as grade table. In square bracket, inside the square bracket I have to give the column name, that is grade list, what I gave, grade list table, I guess. Close the square bracket, close the quotes, and close the parenthesis. Giving OK. Now you see I got the source list from my table. I got the grade values from the table. This is the method to refer the table for the source of drop down list. In this method, I told you, right, the previous method I can't change the source because the source all is fixed. But if I go to the same source table, this is my source table. So if I add any values over here, for example, I am just adding test. Now if I go to the same table source, if I click on the source, you can see here the test value got automatically populated over here. Yeah, so if whenever I add new values to my source table, it will get reflected over there in my source. This is the advantage of using table instead of defining a name for the source. The source will be dynamic. Whenever I want to change the source, it can be changed from the table itself. Here also it is having one disadvantage. Right? Indirect function, it will always refer the table and again the address of the table, and it will fetch the values. Whenever if I have a 10 cells like this, I'm just tracking it. So for every cell the indirect function will refer the table, will refer the column values present in the table. So it is time consuming. In my case it won't consume much time. For example, if you have a huge data, and in that case the Excel performance will get slowed because of this indirect function. For that we are going for another method, that is method 5. We are going to define the table also. Just for previous method 2 and 3 we are defined the source alone. Here we are going to define the table also. How to define the table, how to give the name for the table. Here I am having the grade list. So for defining the table, first I need to create this as a table. So after selecting the list, I need to make insert table or else press Ctrl T. Create table, my table has a character. Okay. Now I got my table name as table 3. I'm just renaming for our convenient. Grade table list. This is the table name I'm going to use. Grade table list. I have named my table as grade table list, and after creating this as a table I have to define these values. So select the values, select the column values, go to formulas tab, define name. You can see my grade list table has selected and the grade list column is selected. So after this I am going to give this name as source list. I'm just giving one name for this source list. So give OK. Now I define this table. Now I have to go to
the cell where I want to refer the table. Go to Data tab, Data Validation. In the Data Validation, I have to select List. From the list, I give function F3 or else equal to I can give the source list name. So I'm just giving function F3. So I got the source list name over here. Just select the source list. Okay. Now I got the source list here. In this case also, if I change the source list, add any values to this my source list table, that value will get reflected over here. Testing. You got it here. The testing value. It will get automatically populated. This is efficient way of using source for the data list. This is method 6. This is one more added feature, that is in some cases you want to refer the table header, not the values present in the table. In that case, you are going to use one formula over here. That's indirect formula. Already I have told. Instead of the column name inside square bracket, I'm just going to use headers. Then headers I need to type. So it will refer the table header. For example, I am having the source over here. Here grade A, grade B, grade C is my header. I'm just going to create this as a table first. First create table. So I got my table as table 5, my table name. So I'm going to refer this table headers instead of this values. So go to my cell, click on the cell, go to Data tab, Data Validation, then select List. In the list, I'm going to use that formula, indirect, then open parenthesis, inside double quotes I have to give table name, that is table 5 is my table name, open bracket, I need to give hashtag headers, then close the square bracket, close the quotes, close the parenthesis, give OK. Now I got my header in my data source list. This is the different methods of creating source for the data table, data validation. So how to clear this one? Clear we already covered. How to give input message for this data. For example, I want to tell the user what values will come in this data source. So for that, give the data validation, go to Data tab, Data Validation. You have input message over here. In this input message, I can give a title for this. This column, this cell will contain grades. So please enter grade. I'm just typing any input message. And if the user typed any other value, I'm going to give an error alert for the user. So for that, I have to select one more tab, that is error tab. Error. Please select valid grade. So I'm giving the error message and the input message for the user. Click the cell, the input message will come. If I enter wrong value in the cell, the error message will come. I'm just after typing the input message and error message, I just give OK. So you can see now if I move the cell over here, you can see my input message grades. Please enter grade. If I typed some other grade that is not present in the list, suppose I type grade 5 and give enter. Now it's showing the error message. This is error. Please select valid grade. So that's all. That's all about drop down list in Excel. If you have any doubts in this topic, please comment below. If you want me to take any other topic in Excel, please do comment. Subscribe this channel to know more about Excel. Thank you.